Over the last couple of weeks, Tesla has sent shockwaves through the automotive industry and the Tesla market whenever they announced that they would be lowering the prices on all of their vehicles. You can see the full breakdown of the Tesla price cuts here, and they range from 6.4% or $3,000 for the most basic Tesla model, which is the Model 3 rear-wheel drive, with the largest price cut coming from the Model Y long range, which saw a whopping 19.7% decrease. Now this of course was big news, especially considering the fact that we're in a time where new car prices are actively going up. They're not coming down. And while this is absolutely good news for anybody who's in the market for a Tesla, this can also be viewed as a real slap in the face to anyone who has purchased a Tesla over the last couple of years, especially those who bought one in the last few months. Because as of now, Tesla owners are not only having to fight the depreciation that is accompanied by a crashing car market, but they are also having to fight the accelerated depreciation that's caused by prices falling up to 20% literally overnight. And Tesla owners are rightfully angry about this. And while I don't exactly know what all of this means for the automotive and Tesla market long term, I do have a theory that these price cuts could be either really good news for Tesla or really, really bad news. These price cuts could either mean that Tesla is in trouble, that there is some sort of writing on the wall and Tesla needs to increase deliveries and demand, and that they need to do so quickly, thus dropping the prices down 20% in order to stir up demand. Or alternatively, it could mean that Tesla has their production down so efficiently that they have that big of a profit margin that they can lower prices by up to 20% and still make a profit. And to be honest, your guess is as good as mine as to which one of these scenarios is playing out in front of our eyes. But regardless of why Tesla is lowering their prices, there is no doubt that this is good news for consumers whenever it comes to used and new car prices. And that is exactly what we're going to be discussing in this video. Now, there is no debating the impact that these Tesla price cuts have had on the Tesla used market. Literally 2 weeks ago, used Teslas were selling for more used than new Teslas are selling for new today. And the trickle down this has had on used car prices has been much larger than the price cuts themselves, meaning Tesla owners wanting to sell their cars are having to drop prices more than 20%, because not only are EV sellers having to combat the price cuts, but they're also having to combat the tax incentives that come along with buying a Tesla new. I've been keeping a close eye on used Tesla prices for years, and this is the first time that I can ever recall consistently seeing very clean 2 to 3 year old Tesla Model 3s with less than 40,000 miles that are being sold for between $30,000 and $35,000. And this is just the beginning, because I expect that car prices will continue to fall as these price cuts continue to take effect. And I think that this is excellent news. I have been a pretty outspoken critic of Teslas over the years, and over the years I've criticized things like their build quality as well as their price. Because when you look at a Tesla Model 3 that's priced for between $45,000 and $50,000, I think there are better cars out there for the price. But when you lower that price down to $35,000, Tesla becomes a much more attractive, more affordable option. It sort of accomplishes what the Model 3 was supposed to be from the get-go. The Model 3 was supposed to be this car that had a starting MSRP of $35,000. And while for a long time Tesla did advertise the Model 3 having this starting MSRP, buyers never actually got this price whenever it came to actually purchasing the car. And while you still can't buy a Tesla Model 3 for $35,000, you can finally buy one for that price range used, and in relatively good condition. So it finally seems like the Model 3 at least is becoming that affordable, economical, attainable EV that it was supposed to be but never was. As much as I'm hesitant to say it, I believe that in the last couple of weeks, Tesla, specifically the Model Y and the Model 3, at least on the used market, have gone from being an overpriced, overhyped car to being what is actually a really great car for the price range. And I can see why these price cuts would make somebody consider a Tesla if they maybe would have never considered one in the past. But the effects of these price cuts don't begin and end with Tesla. They're also having a trickle-down effect on not only the entire electric vehicle market, but also the automotive industry as a whole, for both new and used cars. Last year, the average cost of a new electric vehicle was $65,291, or 37% higher than the overall new car market. Today, the average price of a Tesla, excluding the Plaid variation, is about $68,000. Prior to the price cuts, the average was $78,000. As for the used car market, as of July, the average cost of a used electric vehicle was just under $41,000, while the average cost of a used Tesla was $67,000, which was at the peak of Tesla pricing at the time. Today, the average price of a used Tesla is about $49,000. Both of these figures are still above average pricing, but they are much closer, which makes it a much more attractive option for someone who's shopping for both a used or a new EV. And then this of course begs the question of what are competitors going to do? Now there are still plenty of cheaper EVs out there. The 2023 Toyota Prius, Nissan Leaf, Polestar 2, Kia EV6, these are just a few that are still quite a bit cheaper than the average Tesla. But with these price cuts, Teslas have become much more competitive, and in some cases they've even become cheaper. The Mach-E GT, which is Ford's highest trim-level electric Mustang, costs $69,895 new. The Model Y Performance, which is Tesla's most comparable model to this trim, costs $56,990. The Model Y Performance now costs $13,000 less than the Mach-E GT. And previously, these two cars were the same price. There is certainly reason to believe that automakers that are competing with Tesla in the EV space will have no other choice but to reevaluate their pricing model. Or at the very least, it may incentivize automakers from raising their prices any further, which is something that they were doing throughout most of 2021 and 2022. And while the Model S and the Model X are still very pricey vehicles, the Model Y and the Model 3 have become much more attainable, especially used, which is forcing hands of other automakers in the EV space moving forward. And while we haven't seen the effect of these price cuts across the new market yet, as it's simply too soon to see that change, there is no doubt that there is going to be effect moving forward. The real question is how much of an effect. And while I think that this impact will most dramatically be on other electric vehicles, I think it's absolutely going to have an effect on gas-powered cars as well. Especially when you take into account cars priced in the $30,000 to $40,000 price range. These cars are now competing with Tesla, and for the luxury EV space, that is significant. And we are already starting to see prices starting to decline in the non-EV segment as a result. And sure, these declines that we're seeing in the gas-powered space aren't exclusively because of Tesla, but they are from the overall decline of the car market as a whole, which Tesla is of course contributing to now that they've lowered their prices. There is a whole domino effect here that's impacting every single facet of the used and new car market and the prices associated with them. At the end of the day, these price cuts are significant, not just for Teslas, not just for EVs, but for the entire automotive market as a whole. And when we look at this, plus with the crashing car market, plus with retailers like Carvana liquidating inventory, this is all really great news if you're a consumer who's looking to buy a used car, whether that used car is a Tesla or not. And while I am admittedly a Tesla skeptic, and I have been for a long time, I can say that this makes Teslas, even for me, a much more attractive vehicle. And I think that this is great news all the way around, and it will have a positive impact to not only electric vehicle buyers, but also to the entire car market. And while I do think that this is all really good news for the car market as a whole, I totally understand and sympathize with the fact that Tesla owners are very angry. And if I was a Tesla owner, I'd be angry too. Teslas in general have had a long-standing reputation of holding their value, and this has no doubt had an impact whenever people are deciding on whether or not they want to purchase a Tesla. I know for me personally, depreciation is a huge factor whenever I go to buy a car. So if I went to purchase a car that had really great depreciation, only to find out that the car maker cuts their prices by 20%, I'd be pretty pissed. And I know what many people say to this is the fact that cars are a depreciating asset and you should never buy a car with the hope that it's going to retain its value, because that's simply unrealistic. And while overall I do agree with this sentiment, I do think that depreciation is a huge factor that people take into account whenever they make a large purchase. And if all of the research and all of your understandings around the depreciation of a certain car get thrown out the window because the automaker slashes prices, well, I can see why they'd be irritated. But all in all, I think this will be really interesting to see what type of impact this will have on the automotive market moving forward. Not only short term, but long term as well. But like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.